Hello and welcome to the Granstrom podcast, Super Soul Model series, where I help you tune and tap into your natural state of well-being. Are you paying attention to the signs that the universe and the angels are sending you? Because if you are paying attention, your life is made a lot more smooth and easy. And that is what this episode is all about. I want to share with you some of the things that have really helped me on my path, helped me in some of the most difficult times, and that is being able to understand what the signs that I'm being sent by life, whether you know it or not. The universe is always talking to you, whether you know it or not. The angels are always around you, whether you believe in angels or the universe or energy. It matters not what you call it. But in my life, I always like to think I've been blessed by angels, and I'm going to explain with you why that is. And you have angels all around you as well. Now, whether you call them angels or it's the universe, it's all the same thing. But what I do want to share with you are some of the signs that you may receive when you're experiencing difficulty and you want a bit of peace of mind. Because that is what this episode is all about. It's all about wanting to uplift you. It's wanting to inspire you and empower you and give you a greater relationship with life itself, because whether you know it or not, life is always speaking to you. But the question is, are you listening to what it's saying? And years ago, when I was lost and confused, I wasn't listening. I wasn't noticing the red flags, which was saying, don't go down here. This could lead down a very treacherous path. And so I found myself at the age of 19 in a car crash, which somehow, in some way, I managed to escape pretty much unscathed. And so did my friend, and I was lucky that no one else was hurt except for us in very minor ways. And when I walked away from that car wreck, I couldn't believe that I, number one, ended up outside that car wreck, and then number two, nothing had happened to my face. No glass had smashed on my face. And the police officers in the ambulance couldn't believe that I was the driver. In fact, they said I should be dead. And so it really struck me at that age, at the age of 19, that I was blessed in some kind of way. I'd been given a second chance. And that is when I really, really started to believe that some force greater than myself had protected me that evening, had given me a second chance. And so I made it my adult life, even though not perfect, to try and figure out, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose and what's my calling, and how can I help? And here I am years later on this podcast, wanting to uplift you and inspire you to be that messenger, to remind you that all is well, even when things seem really hard, things seem really difficult. And one of the best ways that has helped me find greater peace of mind is by being able to decode some of these messages that life gives me. And they're beautiful, and they're simple, and they're natural. And I like to call these following the signs from my angels, following the signs from the universe. Just remember, you're a spiritual being having a human experience, not the other way around. So that means that you have roots in the spirit world, you have roots in non-physical, you have roots in a higher realm, a higher frequency. And there's only a portion of your energy, a portion of your soul residing in your physical form. That means that you have access to a higher frequency that is guiding you at all times. Think of it very much like streaming. Think of it very much like getting Wi-Fi. You are like the router, yet the Wi-Fi that goes through the router gives you the internet. So you have access to that infinite stream of fast broadband speed. But yet, when you feel doubtful, when you feel hopeless, when you feel depressed, or you feel really low on energy, what's actually happening is you're slowing down your broadband speed. So think of yourself as a receiver, and you have access to fiber optic higher power. That is the best way I could describe it. And the closer you are to feeling good, the easier it is for you to receive that fiber optic speed of spirit. And that is when noticing some of these signs makes your life so much more fun, so much more magical and enchanting, like it was when you were a kid. Because as we become adults, we kind of forget that enchantment. So use this episode as a little bit of inspiration to remind yourself is to stay in awe, stay in wonder, stay in enchantment, because life isn't dull. It's pretty magical if you can keep your eyes open and realize, as Eckhart Tolle says, that life is the dancer and you are the dance. So how do you get a sign? First and foremost, you have to ask. And when you ask, you shall receive. Now, when you ask for a sign, you will get it. But now you have to pay attention to what actually comes about. Now, more and more people are becoming aware of it, but not necessarily people are understanding some of the signs that are coming. So you ask the universe, you ask your angels, please give me a sign whether this job is the right place, whether I should move here, or whether that person's the right person for me. And just give me a sign. And you don't necessarily ask for a specific sign. You just ask for a sign that you will notice. That's what I've always done, because sometimes being too specific about what type of sign that you will get really can slow the process down. So think of it like you were leaving your antennae open to all sorts of possibility, because the universe and the angels speak to you through different mediums, and that's what I want to share with you about in the signs. So first, you've got to ask. Next, you've got to wait and go about your business. And third, you've got to be alert to opportunities that show up. You've got to be alert to things that present themselves that seem just perhaps a little unusual in your experience. And like I said, I don't like to specify what they are, but I'm going to give you some of the signs that may present themselves, as they have to me on several thousand occasions. Now, one of the best things to do, aside from asking out loud, is to write it down. Now, I really like to write things down because it creates focus, and focus is what brings this energy right into being. So when you write things down, there's almost like a 60% chance of you having success of writing things down, particularly with goals. So I am a keen advocate of writing my intentions down, and specifically when I'm asking for signs from the universe or from the angels. So ask the angels, please give me a sign about this matter, and just be on the lookout to see what shows up. Not straight away, but it takes a little bit of time, because remember, when you ask, it is always given, but it's always given when you're relaxed and calm. It's not in that moment. Sometimes it can be in that moment, but often a little time has to pass before you start receiving a divine message from the angels or from the universe. Now, one of the first signs that means the angels are close to you is you seeing a feather. Now, just the other week, I was with my partner and we were sitting down inside a hotel having a drink, and literally out of nowhere, a feather landed on her lap. And it was just the most amazing, unusual experience, because we were talking about something spiritual. We were talking about something about connection, and there was a feather literally on her lap. And we were both like, wow, where did that come from? And we felt really blessed that the angels were right there as we were just conversing, as we were just talking. And it seemed like the most unusual place. And it's amazing how angels or the universe can get through to you. You just have to pay attention. Now, when you see a feather, that just means your guardian angel is close to you and protecting you. And so that's a really comforting sign. So should you see a feather, see that as a sign that your guardian angel is really close to you. Now, the next thing, if you're needing a bit of reassurance or you're wanting a bit of hope and life's a bit challenging, when you see a rainbow, that is also a sign. Rainbows in the past have always been omens of good fortune, omens of hope, of things working out. I remember when my dad died, we needed to get some papers signed, and the first people that we were going to have sign the papers couldn't sign the papers, and now we were lost about who could sign the papers, because my mum only knew a couple of people. And long story short, a couple came over who were good friends with my mum and dad, and they said, sure, we'll sign the papers. And when they came, there was a very, very big rainbow outside our villa, and it was just uncanny how the timing and the coincidence and the synchronicity of all of that came together. And I just saw that rainbow. I remember taking a shot of all of us together on a photograph and just going, wow, this is just amazing. And even just a few weeks ago, I was a bit challenged with something and I saw a rainbow. And so it's a really beautiful sign to let you know that everything is going to be all right. The next sign are animals, and that might be birds, it might be butterflies, it might be dragonflies. Whenever you see an animal or a bird spending a lot more time in an area near you than you can imagine, maybe it just comes and sits on your windowsill. I've had that happen so many times. I've had a bird literally sit on my windowsill for literally minutes. And just the other day, I was asking for a sign. Is this the right thing to do? And a bird came and sat with me for literally several minutes, and it just sat on the edge of the chair where I was sitting outside on my terrace, and the sun was shining, and I was really, really calm. And literally this bird came in and spent so much time with me, and it was the most beautiful bird, and it was chirping away. And that I took as my sign that all is well and everything's going to be okay. And that's exactly what I needed at that time. So if you're experiencing any challenge and you ask for a sign and you see a bird or a butterfly, then see that as a beautiful omen from your angels saying everything's going to be okay. The next thing that you might see as a sign which will give you comfort are seeing clouds. Now, some clouds are just regular clouds, but then there are these clouds that have the most amazing shape, or the light just shines through them in such a way, or it's full of colour, and they just mesmerize you with enchantment. Clouds are basically a beautiful sign from your angels or the universe saying, I have your back. The universe has your back. I've seen and read up about like what clouds mean. And in my opinion, when I see a beautiful, unusual set of clouds, I always see that I'm being divinely protected in that moment, because sometimes we feel a little unsure. We might feel a little insecure. But when you see these cloud formations and they're absolutely heavenly, you'll know. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we were out on the beach, and for about 5 minutes or so, the light and the clouds and the pinks and the reds and the yellows were all merged together, and we just felt like, where on earth are we? And it really felt heavenly. So when you are able to witness some unusual cloud activity and it's beautiful, you'll know that in that moment you're being divinely protected, or you've got divine guidance looking after you. It's a really, really nice feeling of comfort. My next sign that shows up is seeing numbers aligned, like 111, 222, 333, 444, 555. Like just today I was driving and I saw the numbers 555 and 111. Now, always pay close attention to what you're thinking when you witness that. Now, often I see that on registration plates, but it could come when you're looking at the clock or a digital analog clock, that you see 1111 or 222. Whenever I see these numbers in alignment, I'm always like, wow, that means I'm in tune. That means I'm in alignment. But it's really important that you can be mindful about what you were thinking when you were looking at the numbers, because that kind of gives a bit of a feedback. But when you're getting those numbers aligned, it's a bit of a feedback saying you're right on track, kid, all is well. And if you don't see those numbers, it means that you're not quite yet in alignment. But when you do see those numbers, it just is a confirmation that you're in alignment right now. The next thing on the list that is a sign from your angels or the universe is actually pictures of angels. Like the other day, I went to a cave in Gibraltar, of all places, and in the cave, there was this light show that they had. And they said, it's really unusual that in this cave, it looks as though there's an angel made out of stalactites and stalagmites if you look up. And lo and behold, I looked up and it's an uncanny resemblance to an extremely large angel that looks as though it's been carved out of stalactites. And I remember looking up thinking to myself, how did that get there? And this is exactly what I needed at this moment, because I was just asking a question and I look up and there's this beautiful light show on this enormous angel. Looks as though it's peering out from this cave ceiling, and it must be about 25 feet tall. And the name of the cave is called St. Michael's Caves in Gibraltar, and I'd never seen anything like it. And for me, as someone who believes in angels, yet I haven't seen any, I've just seen these symbols and these signs. It made me feel very comfortable. It made me feel that all is well. And I think that that's really important, because as we move through life, there are moments where you can feel great comfort and great confidence, and there are moments when you've got a little uncertainty. And so when you're looking to these signs, they just give you a little bit of peace. So that angelic sign was great. Now, it might be a cross, or it might be the sun coming out, particularly on your face as you're having a meaningful conversation with a friend. That could be another sign. But pay attention to some of the little angelic things that you're seeing. I remember a friend of mine was in Argentina and he was really needing some help, and he felt lost and unsure. And I remember he was just having a meal by himself and couldn't speak the language of Spanish in Argentina. And he looked down and he saw on the pram a cross, and that meant something to him. So whatever it means to you is the sign. And he said, that's exactly what I needed. I needed to turn to higher power right now because I couldn't go through this doubt or uncertainty by myself. So that's why having these signs really prove to be very comforting when you're experiencing a difficult moment. The next sign is songs. You might hear a song that is really unusual that gives you a little bit of reassurance. I remember when my dad died, on the day he died, I was driving back from the funeral parlour and I was interrupted with my music, my meditation music that I was playing to calm my nervous system whilst driving my mum back. Was my phone just suddenly just changed songs, and that meditation song got interrupted by Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra, my dad's favourite artist, which gave me a feeling of peace that my dad was flying in another dimension and that all was well. That was exactly what I needed to feel and hear in that moment, and I got goosebumps. So it's amazing how these signs can get through to you in these physical ways, because non-physical can get through to you in all sorts of ways. It can get through to you in nature, music, songs, magazines, billboards, TV commercials, movies. It might be even something someone says at the time that you're like, oh my God, were you just reading my mind? These are the types of signs that you get. Now, as I go into the next thing, I just mentioned billboards. I've seen signs, or even someone wearing a t-shirt. Like even yesterday, I saw a t-shirt and it says, you deserve to be super happy. And I was like, yes, I do. And when I saw that t-shirt, I was like, do you know what? That's a sign. I needed that today. I do deserve to be super happy. And I am happy. But it's always nice to be reminded of those little messages. So be alert to t-shirts, be alert to some of the visual messages, the auditory messages. Maybe it's even smells you might pick up. You might smell a scent that just feels really good, that reminds you of your grandma if you're feeling upset that maybe she's passed on, or a family member. The universe or the angels have wonderful ways of getting through to you that will talk to you in a language that you get. Now, these are just some of mine. And last but not least, I just wanted to share another one. Children with great innocence have a wonderful way of being receptive to higher energy. They've got like the fastest broadband speed, in my opinion, to spirit, to higher energy. And when you're young, it's because you don't have many programs. You just still feel in awe and wonder and enchantment of the world. And just the other day, one of my neighbour's grandchildren knocked on the door and said, I've got a present for you. And I was like, really? And she handed me a Christmas card, and I was really, really touched, and wrote a really beautiful message in there. And that reminded me that all is well. And sometimes when we are in different places, like I am, because I've moved to a different area and I'm still getting to know the area after a few weeks, it's amazing that you can still feel connected and make an impact around you fairly quickly. And that little child popping in, wishing me a happy day and writing me a Christmas card early was a beautiful little sign to say all is well, everything's going to be okay. Now, we're all a bit unsure about sometimes what's going to happen next or what you've got to do. So these signs are just reassurances that all is well. Now, these are just some of the signs that happen to me frequently, and they mean something to me when I see them. So when I see a feather, I'm like, wow, that's impressive, especially when I'm not in any area that potentially could be like a pillow cushion feather or something like that. It's always the most unusual. I remember meditating once and I was on my bed laying down, and literally a feather was right next door to me, and I was like, how did that get there when all the windows have been shut and I don't even have feathered pillows? I was just in awe about how that would happen. So when you see things that seem so unusual and so magical, use them as signs. Try to get your logic out the way and allow enchantment to take its place in your life, because when you've got more enchantment, more awe and more wonder, you can really dance with life and allow the fairies of the universe, all the angels, to work with you and in harmony with you, to guide you, especially when you need help. When you need help, all you need to do is ask. And if there's one thing you can take away from this show, is that there are signs that will help you along the way, like what I've shared with you today. But just remember, don't be afraid to ask. You're not asking too much. In fact, you've got to ask a little bit more regularly for their help. You've got to ask a little bit more regularly to the universe to show you the way. Or you've got to ask the angels to do that. Whatever works for you. It matters not what you call it, whether they're angels or the universe or life or God. Just ask for that sign, and when you get it, it will be specific to you. It will do something for you that will make you feel a little bit more connected to life itself. Because remember, life is always talking. The question is, are you listening? And then you can be part of this wonderful to and fro conversation between yourself and life, and you feel really, really connected and naturally high. Just remember, it's really difficult to see those signs when you're not calm. That has been one of my major learning points, to be able to be receptive of some of these signs. So that's why when I was driving back when my dad died, it was a very difficult day. I remember just putting on that meditation music to really calm me down. And then suddenly that Frank Sinatra song, Come Fly With Me, came on. So you can see like the vibrational difference when you're calm, that you can be receptive to a new idea. So the more you meditate, the more you can calm yourself, the more you can put yourself in very comfortable, easy, soothing environments when life's a bit difficult and you're uncertain, then these signs will be a little bit easier to see. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it inspired you, and I hope that you can pay attention to the signs that life shows up. Remember, when you ask, it is always given. Now, if you do get any signs, which I know you will, I would really appreciate it if you tag me with your picture on Instagram and just go, this is a sign I received today. This is a sign I received today. Because when we share this, we're sharing the magic of life. Because this is really powerful stuff. When we start to share it, then we think, hey, I'm not just a Looney Tune. I'm actually seeing something that seems like really far out and beautiful and magical. So when I get pictures of nature that are just phenomenal, I post them on my Instagram stories. And it's amazing how many times I see things. And obviously when you see things, you get more things to see. So when we start sharing this in a community that all is well, and there are these beautiful signs guiding us and guiding you in your day-to-day, particularly when you're unsure about something, it gives you a feeling of comfort and feeling of safety. And that's what this is all about, because the more comfortable you feel knowing that the universe has got your back, that you have angels surrounding you, and that all is well, the better life becomes and the more relaxed you can become. And then life just seems to take off from there. Anyway, until the next episode, I wish you a wonderful week ahead, and green lights all the way.